All right, good morning. Thank you for coming. Today we're going to talk about one of the largest assets that communities across the country are entrusted to manage, and that's the public right-of-way. Public right-of-way generally exists from the house side of the sidewalk to the sidewalk on the other side of the street. It's one of the key areas that links our neighborhoods, and also just from a daily standpoint, that's where the pedestrians, that's where the bicyclists, that's where the vehicles use to make their daily commutes. But on top of that, that's also where the most critical infrastructure is to serve our neighborhoods on a daily basis. Some of that infrastructure is very visible, like the streets that the cars are driving on right next to us, the street lights, the visible fire hydrants. But what lies below these public right-of-ways is also very important and very busy, if you will. Underneath this public right-of-way, that's where the water line is that brings water to your home and business every day. It's also where the sanitary sewer pipes convey wastewater away from the businesses and homes every day, ultimately to the wastewater plant to get treated and discharged. It's where the big storm sewer pipes are, so in a large rain event, that first rush of water gets captured in the storm intakes and ultimately conveyed to the drainage channels, and then ultimately to the Big Sioux River or Skunk Creek in our area. It's just very critical. Those are the real visible aspects that you can see. And in addition to that, on the public, there are private utilities. So that's where your gas main is, that's where your electrical service is, in many cases your cable. So the importance of the public right-of-ways to not only have for pedestrians, vehicles, bicyclists, mass transit, it's also very critical for all those utilities that really give us modern neighborhoods today. That's why it's so important that we maintain this space to make sure it's safe, but also so we can frequently install, update, and replace these utilities. We have had a really good conversation over the course of last winter and ultimately updated policy on what could be done in this area between the curb and the sidewalk of what we call the parking strip. Property owners across the city have wanted to do more, but we've had a very restrictive ordinance that didn't really reflect today's trends, and we needed to get together and establish new relevant landscape guidelines that allow the community and the property owners to do more in that space, but still maintain this corridor for safe travel and also being able to maintain our public utilities. We really invested a lot of time working with the Land Use Committee that's chaired by Councilor Kiley, and worked extensively with the Land Use Committee along with a number of just very interested community members and experts to establish some new relevant landscape standards that the community can really work to achieve. So we have two people here to take you through what this plan is. Matt Tobias is our code enforcement manager. Matt will take you through the new guidelines, and then Councilor Kiley will follow up on what the transition plan is to get to that point. So help me welcome Matt Tobias.
Thank you, Mark. My name is Matt Tobias, code enforcement manager, City of Sioux Falls, and what we started out with was we took a look at our current ordinance, which Mark was referencing is very restrictive. We didn't really give our residents really the opportunity to actually take pride in their parking strip, because before that we had our ordinance would allow grass and trees. So we were very, very limited. So when we opened this platform and started looking at this particular area here, we really wanted to encourage the residents to, like I said, take pride in their parking strip. And then we thought we would take a look at what would be allowed in that parking strip. So at this point in time, this is kind of a good mix what we have here. There's some grass and there's some flowers and shrubs behind me here, greenery. So we took a look at what was allowed in the parking strip. One of the first things we looked at was plants. So then we started talking about plants, and then we went through like a long list of plants, and then height became a big issue. So what we're saying is that if you plant some flowers or other plants in the parking strip, we want to make sure that they're less than 3 feet. 3 feet is kind of our max for that, for sight lines, for driveway safety zones and whatnot. So 3 feet's really that. As far as what's not allowed in the parking strip, we don't want to see shrubs. We don't want to see plants with thorns, sharp rigid parts, spines and stuff like that. So we're really limiting that to flowers and plants and whatnot. Also, there's another aspect of the parking strip that we're taking a look at too, and that's the hard surfacing, the rock. We're going to allow 1/4 of your total area of your parking strip to be actually a hard surface, would be pavers or rocks. So we really want people to be creative. And we took a really long look at this ordinance. We wanted to have people be proud of their parking strip in front of their house. And there are some very good examples that residents have already done with the parking strips. And there's a couple around this neighborhood that they're excellent examples. It was just that. So like Mark said, it's a critical piece of infrastructure. We want to allow you to have the ability to actually beautify that, to actually be proud of that. Plant some flowers in there, plant some plants in there. We don't want to see the entire parking strip be like wood mulch. Wood mulch is tough for us, especially on the storm sewer side. That mulch during a heavy rain event has the ability to wash off into the storm sewer. So wood mulch we're limiting to just as a water conservation measure right around the plants. So once again, we want as much greenery. The intent is to have as much greenery in this area as possible. And so like we said, the rock actually goes back to 1/4 of the total area of the parking strip can be rock, limiting the mulch to just around the plants. And just like you said, be creative with that. We are working on, this is our public education campaign. We have a pamphlet we're distributing out, and we have a list of good ideas for plants. Our intention with that pamphlet is to get that out to a lot of the major landscape garden centers in Sioux Falls, so you have that readily available. So we're just going to give you kind of a what's good to plant in that actual parking strip. So with that, that's kind of the ordinance in a rundown, the kind of the do's and don'ts of the parking strip. Councilor Rick Kiley has been instrumental in this. He chaired the land use committee. That's where we spent a lot of our time working on updating this ordinance. So Councilor Kiley, at this point in time, I'd like to turn it over to him so we can kind of talk about the transition. Transition was really important to the land use committee, and just to kind of make sure we didn't go through this thing coming on the board swinging right off the bat. So we wanted to give our residents some time to actually, before we started enforcing the ordinance. So at this point in time, we'll turn it over to Councilor Kiley.
Thank you, Barry. Yep. I'm Rick Kiley, Vice Chair of the Sioux Falls City Council. And first of all, I'd like to recognize the work and the efforts of a number of individuals, in particular Mark Cotter and Matt Tobias. Shannon Verhey, who's standing in the back, participated in this, as well as other members of the Land Use Committee and in the City Council itself. This was one of the first issues that I took on as a City Councilor 2 years ago. And at that point in time, we decided to step back, analyze, take in information, and then formalize a plan. And quite frankly, we've done that. I think we've acted in a very reasonable fashion, a fashion in which it allows for flexibility of the parking strip, while at the same time maintaining public safety and also maintaining the integrity of the utilities and the whole intent of the right-of-way to begin with. The transition, so now we're moving from the discussion stage, and we'd like to move from discussion to compliance. And we decided that the best way to do that is start out today with the educational phase. So 2016, we're basically going to be educating the public as to what is allowed and what is not allowed in the parking strip. And Matt had already referred to the pamphlet, and this will be going out to individuals, and I believe it'll be going out in water bills, and it'll be also available at landscape centers, and we're working with the landscapers. And Matt's actually probably honorary members of a number of gardening clubs around the city, because he's actually attended their meetings and gathered information, listened to their comments and their concerns, and answered questions to help us to get to this point. So we're in the educational phase. 2016, we're just trying to get the information out to homeowners through various methods of contacting the landscape gardening centers and the landscape contractors. And as I've mentioned, Matt has contacted the gardening clubs and has actually attended meetings to help answer questions and concerns. So we are doing that today, educating the public as to what is allowed and what is not allowed. Then we'll transition to 2017, where it'll be basically warnings will be issued to individuals that are still not in compliance, and again with an effort to help bring them into compliance without citing them. And then eventually then in 2018 we would enforce the ordinance and if necessary would cite individuals. But in the meantime, our primary focus is to educate the public. We didn't want to make a change without allowing them the opportunity and the time to make the changes that they would like. And in some cases, they may do that themselves. In other cases, it may require hiring a landscaper to do the work for them. And we understand that that can't happen overnight. So we're taking this approach of education in 16, and then with some gentle nudges in 2017 to bring them from this discussion stage into compliance.